Well, it's Tuesday Wrestling, and you all know what that means. We'll be reviewing AEW Dark and NXT. Now, there is no NWA Power. However, they kind of decided to have a review and talk about the recent events of their previous pay per view, 312 in Chicago. Now, I didn't need to go through the whole thing on that because I already talked about it. But however, I did not see the last three matches. I thought they would just put clips of it. Apparently, it did not. But first things first, we'll be reviewing a couple events that took place exactly on WrestleMania week. We're talking about Impact Wrestling and New Japan, Multiverse Unite, the strong will only the strong will survive. I have to say, what a great show they put on that one. We got GCW with For the Culture that also took place on that very day on the 30th of March. I have to say, awesome matches that took place on that one. And of course, we got some news updates to share. What's been going on in the world of pro wrestling? Like what events are being taking place, who's being booked, and what promotion and whatnot. So we're gonna be doing all of that. So welcome. Let's get it started with another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J. Rod here. So let's get started with Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling with Multiverse Unite. Only the strong survive. Now, if you guys never heard of the show, this is where we have interactions between Impact Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now, those who don't know, they had in the past before they became Impact a very good working relationship with New Japan, but there was a bit of a falling out. And now they're doing this in a new type of setting where we're seeing combinations of wrestlers from New Japan and Impact. Now let's get started with a pre-show match. We have Umura taking on Gabriel Kidd. Now this is interesting. Now if you guys know this, as you know, Yuya Umura is just recently graduated from the LA Dojo. He soon will be heading back to Japan, but we just don't know when. He faces off a former uh, 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 um a young boy, a young lion. We're talking about Gabriel Kidd. Now Gabriel Kidd in this particular match, he was acting more like he doesn't give a damn and all that. But what I did like is how somehow Yuya Umura, all the beating that he suffered by Kidd, he applied a cross body on him, and one, two, three, it was over right from there. Now we start with the main card. We have the Impact X Division title. We have Rich Swann versus Kevin Knight versus Frankie Kazarian versus Clark Connors versus Rocky Romero, and of course the champion Trey Miguel. I thought this was pretty good, but the start of this match, Trey Miguel, who was pissed off the other five competitors, basically he wasn't making friends. He got his ass whooped what he did. But I have to say, this is a good combination of wrestlers that are part of the X Division. How do I say? Um, Lineage. I mean, uh, Rich Swann, a former X Division champion, so is Frankie Kazarian. Kevin Knight, he's on that verge of that. But one thing I did like is how this ended is where Clark Connors, he speared, who was it? Knight. But however, Trey Miguel took the advantage by getting rid of Connors and pinning Knight in order to retain the title. So he played the smarter move, which is upsetting, but that's how he played. Like of course the term said, only the strong survive. Our next match, we have a very peculiar eight-man tag match. We have Eddie Edwards teaming with Tom Lawler, teaming with Jericho, and of course, a very unusual person. Say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. I don't know why he was paired with those guys. It's kind of very unusual, but it was very interesting. But however, their opponents, it's none other than Sammy Callahan, Fred Rosser, um, Alex Coughlin, and PCO. Now, you know there's factors in this type of match. PCO, who has his rivalry with Eddie Edwards, that says it all. Fred Rosser, we know he's been through hell with, of course, Team Filthy. Members are, in fact, involved in this match, Lawler and Kratos. And Coughlin, well, we all know about him. He is, of course, one of the recent graduates of the LA Dojo. I thought this match was pretty interesting because of the dynamics with certain wrestlers and storylines that have been put out. But PCO was the one who picked up the win onto Kratos with the PCO salt. I thought it was great. PCO was the one who finished off the match. Next up, we have a very interesting match. We have Moose versus Jack Cobb. Now you have um, Moose, who was a former football player, taking on a former Olympian. I think this was a very dynamic match, but the obvious thing, who was going to walk out as the strongest here? I have to say, I was very impressed. Jeff Cobb picked up the win when he applied the Tour of the Islands on Moose, and that was it. Now, our next match is a fatal four-way number one contenders for the Knockouts title. We have Masha Slamovich, Giselle Shaw, Miyu Yamashita making her debut, and of course, Deonna Purrazzo. Now, Mickie James was in presence in this particular match, watching it from the commentary booth. She said that she would have liked to face Miyu Yamashita, but we all can agree that Miyu Yamashita is the wild card in this particular match. I mean, she is deadly as she speaks, but Mickie James knows the other three competitors that she's faced. I mean, Masha, Giselle, and Deonna. And she even told us that it was kind of unusual for Deonna to help her out, but she was impressed how somehow Deonna was able to adapt into a new different direction. And I think it says it all. But we'll see what happens. But it was Deonna with the Queen's Gambit onto the Giselle Shaw, picking up the win. Now, our next match, I believe, is the Impact World Tag Team titles in a fatal four-way match. Motor City Machine Guns. TMDK consisted of Shane Haste and Bad Dude Tito. Aussie Open, and of course, the Bullet Club, the ABC. I have to say, this was a very interesting match. Now, you probably ask yourselves, why did Aussie Open even got themselves involved if they were going to have a match for the IWGP Tag Team title? Simple. I feel, in my opinion, with Aussie Open, they're trying to see if they can elevate themselves beyond what FTR did. Now, keep in mind, 2022 was the year of FTR as the best tag team. So I'm sure that Aussie Open are trying to say, well, if 2022 was your year, let's make 23 our year. So if you guys notice, they even competed in various tag team matches with titles that involves not only that the Impact, even recently with the AEW tag team titles. But nonetheless, the match was amazing. I did like how it, once again, Bay and Austin, who are like, to me, I view them as they're the ones who are holding it together as the only team in Bullet Club in the US, but they were able to apply the 1-2 sweet onto Tito, and it was over right from there. Now, our next match, this was originally supposed to be Kushida versus Josh Alexander for the Impact World Championship, but due to the injury of a torn bicep by Josh Alexander, he had to be withdrawn from this event, and they replaced him with Lio Rush. I think this is a dream match that many fans wanted to see. I mean, these two competitors are excellent high flyers, but but Kushida has been adapting using grappling and submission tactics, so I think that plays out pretty well. Now, the only thing that Lio Rush needs to be more careful is the hoverboard lock, but unfortunately, he did end up in that, and of course, he had no choice but to tap. Now, our next match, we have the strong openweight championship between Minoru Suzuki and Kenta. Now, these two guys have been busting each other's chops since then. You know, they're almost the same, but I think the obvious thing does tell who is really the strongest of them all, who is the most deadliest person. Well, I would like to say is Minoru Suzuki, but Kenta, who's a bit of a slime ball, over the years, trying to cheat his way through to prove he's the best, he decided to low blow Minoru Suzuki in order to retain the title. But Minoru Suzuki's not gonna forget this. He even tried to beat him up with the chair, but they should have let him go because I'm sure Kenta thinks, oh, I beat you, so that's pretty much he. Suzuki is not gonna let that slide one way or the other. Now our main event features Mike Bailey taking on Hiroshi Tanahashi. Now it was supposed to be Bailey versus Will Ospreay, but due to Will Ospreay's injury as well, they replaced him with Tanahashi. This was a very interesting match. I mean, you look at a veteran like Tanahashi taking on a guy who is trying to make up for lost time. It's very amazing. But I'm sure Tanahashi realized he's dealing with a much younger competitor, but he was able to overcome all of that when he applied the high five flow to give him the win. I thought great matches. I think this was pretty good. Uh, let's see what happens next year, but nonetheless, I loved it. I think that's pretty much it right now with Multiverse United. Let's move on with GCW for the culture. Okay, so let's talk about GCW full for the culture. Now, this is the first official show that started for the GCW collective of this year. If you guys aren't familiarized with Full the Culture, this was an event organized by Billy Dixon. This is for where wrestlers of African American descent uh, can showcase their skills. Not try to make this like a racial thing, but it's pretty good. I think it's pretty awesome to see. You see various wrestlers of of African descent really showcasing what they can do. Now, our first match, as always with any GCW match, we have a scramble. We have Ashton Starr versus Juice Diz versus Murray versus Darius Carter versus Teriyaki versus Devin Monroe, and then finally versus Faye Jackson, who is the only female in this scramble. Well, I'm not going to say anything negative about it or bad. I'm just saying, okay, let's see how this one is. But I think the one certain wrestlers I kind of am familiarized with the most, well, all of them, but not with Faye Jackson. I'm not 100% familiarized with her. I mean, I've seen Ashton Starr a few times. Judiz, I've seen him here in my town of San Diego. Kata Murray, I've seen him a few times in certain promotions. Darius Carter, I'm trying to remember what promotion I seen. But nonetheless, it is a scramble. Like anything could happen in this particular match. But however, it was a crossbody by Juices that was taken down. No, crossbody by Devin, who took down Judas. But however, it was Darius Carter who took this. Now, this is a similar scenario that we saw in the Multiverse Unite for the X Division title. So I'm like thinking that they thought the same thing too as well. I don't know. It was kind of strange because it did happen around the same day, or they were thinking the same thing. I'm not sure, but yeah. But nonetheless, yeah. Now our next match is an anything goes match. We have Willie Mack taking on Billy Dixon. Now, if you guys don't know what anything goes, you can get all the toys you want, to help you win the matches. I thought it was insane. So they had to use doors and not. But however, when Willie Mack thought he had this match won, Billy Dixon he used the backslide in his favor to pick up the win. This was like, holy shit. He actually pulled it off. But in the end, they showed the sportsmanship, so I thought it was really interesting on that. Now, our next match, this is a very interesting one. This one's called the Survivor Series 10-man tag team match. Now, we have wrestlers from two different teams. We have team number one called the Worlds, led by Shug D. If you guys aren't familiarized with Shug D, you may remember him as Pineapple Pete back in AEW Dark during the Daily Plays days when Chris Jericho called him Pineapple Pete. So he actually goes by Shug D. He teams up with Jeffrey John, J, uh, Jay Malachi, Jay Z Storm, and AC Mack. They take on the West Coast, uh, led by Kenny King. Uh, he has Alpha Zoe, Midas Creed, G Sharp, and Maserati. So match was good. Now let me go from how this was eliminated from each pack. G Sharp eliminates Jay Malachi. Shugdi eliminates Midas Creed. Maserati eliminates uh, JC Storm. Then as A Mac eliminates Maserati. Kenny King eliminates Jeffrey John, and AC Mac eliminates G Sharp. Now this led to a very interesting finisher. We have Alpha Zoe and Kenny King remaining for Team West Coast, while AC Mac and Shugdi, how do I say, stay the ones remaining for the world. One thing I did not expect, it was a double pinfall. So basically, Kenny King and Alpha Zoe pinned Shugdi and AC Mac for the win. I'm like, wow, that's an excellent finisher in my opinion. So pretty good. I liked it. Now our next match, we have the Bounty Hunter, Brian Keith, taking on Too Cold Scorpio. I have to say it was a good match because I like how the Bounty Hunter, he's always up for the challenge against anybody that stands in his way, but especially if it's a veteran like Too Cold Scorpio. But you probably wouldn't expect a whole lot now. One thing that was very surprising is Too Cold Scorpio was about to apply a powerbomb move onto Brian Keith, but he countered it by doing a somewhat of a reversal, like a roll up, in order to pick up the win. I did not expect that from him, but it was great. Now our next match is a championship match from the promotion called Black Wrestlers Matters. Now I never heard of this promotion, just to put on record for everybody. I'll see if I can find information about them. Their title was sanctioned, and it was, of course, a three-way match. Myron Reed is the champion. He takes on man like Darius and Kevin Knight. I knew this match was going to be good in some capacity, but it was, of course, the air raid crash by Reed onto Darius that picked up the win. So, wow. And then our last match is another championship match. This one is for the Pan African World Espario Wrestling World title. This one was held by Trish Adora. She takes on Calvin Tankman. I thought this match was pretty good. As you know, that Trish Adora is the champion of this particular title for almost 1,100 plus days on that one. I'm like, wow. So it's pretty interesting. But one thing I was surprised, somehow Trish Adora was able to apply a submission onto Calvin Tankman. I would have thought he was going to withstand it, but he said that he gives up just like that. I did not anticipate that, but nonetheless, Trish Adora gave a pretty good match. I think that's pretty much it right now with the GCW. So let's talk about AEW Dark. Okay, AEW Dark. Now, this one, much like what we had with AEW Dark Elevation on the last episode, we only had 4 matches, which is kind of unusual, but I'm okay with it. Uh, our first match features Brian Pillman Jr. taking on Matt Taven. Uh, Good match. I have to say, I like this. It was pretty good. You probably thought, some of you think Brian Pillman, who is the younger wrestler, would walk away. No, you cannot deny that Matt Taven, who has been a veteran of the game, knows exactly, but he spiked Brian Pillman Jr.'s head right in the mat, giving him the win. So, nonetheless, then yeah. Our next match we have, well, this is a bit of a, how do I say, former members of the factory, Lee Johnson taking on Blake Lee. Now, some of you are saying, is he really a member of the factory? Yeah, Blake Lee was a former member for some odd reason, but nonetheless, he was trained by QT Marshall. So this was a very interesting matchup for that. But nonetheless, it was Lee Johnson that picked up the win with the Fisherman neck breaker onto him to give him the win. Now our next match is Josh Woods taking on a guy you may have seen down in NWA, Daisy K, or as we know him, Daisy Kill. I had to say this one was a very interesting match. I knew that Josh Alexander was going to win this match regardless of what I would have seen, but nonetheless, he picked up the win. Now our main event is Diamante versus Will Nagel. But before I proceed to the match, what I did like about the commentary in this particular match. Now you guys may have seen Will Nightingale's theme. In Ring of Honor, we have seen how Coleman, Caprice Coleman raps to the music of Will Nagel. Well, what I did like is Excalibur saying that, what's going on. He was referencing, he's saying that they were rapping, and he was like saying that they were taking Taz's trademark. Like, what? What did I hear? When was this happening? So basically, he's like saying that, them rapping on Will Nightingale's theme is sacrilegious. So I don't know exactly how this is gonna be. Some fans are already saying, "All right, let's go." War between the two commentating teams from Ring of Honor and AEW. I think that's gonna be great. But nonetheless, the match itself with Diamante and Will Nagel was great. It was Will Nagel who picked up the win when she applied the Dr. Bomb. So practically, yeah. So I will see what happens when we get to uh, Ring of Honor. See what Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccaboni have to say, what they heard from Excalibur if Will Nagel is going to be on Thursday. So we'll see what happens then. So I think that's pretty much it with AEW Dark. I believe it's time for NXT. Okay, our final review is NXT. Now, we all know what happened at the end of last week. Braun Breaker attacked Carmelo Hayes after he invited him to congratulate him on his victory on Stand and Deliver. Now, Melo's not playing any games here. He wanted answers. Like, why? But however, someone decided to come out and congratulate him, telling him that, and that is, of course, Dragon Lee. Now, Dragon Lee says, I came here to face the best wrestlers. And he tells him, you're the best because you're carrying the belt. So Melo kind of like, okay, I see where you're going. But he's saying, why are you wasting your time with Braun Breaker after what he did to you? So I think Melo understands where Dragon Lee comes from. Why is he wasting his time? You have a new challenger you have to attend to. However, another one comes out, decides to, make a point, and that is JD McDonough. So you know how JD McDonough is and all that. But when we thought things were going to get very interesting, it got worse with the return of Grayson Waller. Waller once again, saying that he is the true hero of NXT, not Melo. I'm sure Melo's not going to take that kindly. I was waiting for a punchline from Trick Williams and saying, hey, didn't you lose to Braun Breaker twice? So basically, I was waiting for that punchline, but no, god damn it. But nonetheless, we do know that Dragon Lee, JD McDonough, and Grayson Waller, but Braun Breaker is going to be in a fatal four-way number one contendership. But we'll get to that in a bit. As you know, tensions between Kiana James and Fallon Henley are not going exactly the same after losing the tag title. So we'll get to that. We'll skip into that right now. The match itself, basically it took a different turn. Now you think when things were gonna get worse for Kiana James and Fallon Henley, what's his name? Brooke Jensen shows up, tries to have Fallon Henley to cheat her way through, which is something she's not prepared for. So, however, because of this, it cost them the rematch. But does this mean this is the end of Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs? I'm not sure, but we'll see where that goes. Now, we saw a little TikTok clip coming in, set by Soruka and, of course, her BFF, Danny Palmer. But the lady with this who believes she is the center of everyone's universe, saying that they're not allowed to use the parking lot. But you know, that's how it is. But we did see that they're going to be in a match. Now, the Chase University has awarded their MVP player award, and that MVP player was Duke Hudson after he saved Chase U from the schism. So, but however, Braun Breaker decided to show up and gives his spot to Duke Hudson for some odd reasons. But in the process, he speared Chase U. So don't know what's the deal with that. Now, Gigi Dolan put out a very interesting, video package about her life, about her upbringing and all this other stuff. I thought that's a very interesting story about her life, you know. But now she has to contend with Jay-Z Jane, who betrayed her after that. Let's call it like the Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty style thing. So we'll see. Now, once again, NXT Anonymous strikes again. You see Pretty Deadly were coming out in some building until they were viciously attacked by the D'Angelo family, Stax and Tony D. So, as you know, this thing is out of control and it's getting heftier. Our next match, we have Big Body Javi, or we just call him Javier Bernal, taking on Eddie Thorpe. Not much of a hype, but this one I feel like Eddie Thorpe has been getting the momentum on this one. He pulled off a very twist neck breaker, but the one thing that was interesting, outside the ring, we saw Damon Kemp. Now, I don't know what he's doing, but to me, I feel that he's scouting Eddie Thorpe. Now, it's no secret that some people are referencing Eddie Thorpe from his previous life as Carl Fredericks when he traveled to Japan. I'm not sure if Damon Kemp wants to be that guy who wants to challenge him for that. That's like one of my assumptions for that, but it would be a good story to tell. Now, Tank Ledger, as you know, he is set to be in a debut match in a couple weeks, but however, the Gallows Boys decided that they're going to do something about it, decided to speed up his process. So it did. It later did happen, but Schism, who are not happy with the fact that they were not included in that in the tag match that took place in Stand and Deliver, but they didn't ask to be in it, so that kind of put it on the proportion. Now our next match we have is Tiffany Stratton taking on Soruka. I have to say, what a great match. I mean, these ladies put on a good show in my opinion because they had like similar styles that they were applying. But I like the story how what's his name? Vic was saying to Booker T. Is Tiffany Stratton jealous of Soruka because she's getting all the attention? It feels that way because it tells us, okay, Tiffany Stratton is all about the center of the attention. While Soruka, who's impressive enough, I mean, who could forget when she applied the Soul Snatcher for the first time? That is something we talk about all the time. Like, that's an impressive move. But Tiffany Stratton wasn't going to let someone steal all the spotlight away from her. So the only do that is to beat it out of her, which she did when she applied the moonsault. So that says it all. Now, our Diamond Mine, as you know, has an interesting interview. They actually, Tatum Paxley has already finished what's her name? Ivy now is done with Tatum Paxley, but now the Creed brothers are on the verge to go back to where it started for them, is to regain the NXT tag team titles, even if they have to go through the dyad to do so. So that is another story to go as well. Now, we do get a very interesting return of Cora Jade putting on a promo. She sets herself to say that she is the true hero of NXT despite of everything. But Lyra Valkyria doesn't see it that way. Now she is trying to prevent her from ever reaching the NXT women's title. Now, we know that Cora Jade has that mind. She feels that she's more deserving. But I was hoping to see Tiffany Stratton try to tell Cora Jade to back off. But no, it didn't happen. Now, remember last week what happened at the North American title between Axiom and Wesley Script shows up to attack Axiom, but he was ready for him and took him out. However, Scripps gave a strong message to Axiom, saying that he's going to expose him to find out who he is. So I have a feeling this story is going to go a little different direction. I like what I have a feeling there's going to be that. Now, Wesley, as you know, has been a fighting champion. He gets a little paid visit from Drew Gulak and Charlie Dempsey. Now, these guys are technical wrestlers. They're saying, what are you going to do once we pick you on the ground? But Wesley's like, look, guys, if you just want a title shot, all you got to do was ask. So it was like, oh, they're like saying your high-flying skill may be good for you, but it's going to be the thing that keeps you down. So basically, it's kind of fun to see. Now, our next match, we have Von Wagner with Mr. Stone taking on Ilya Dragunov. Now, Mr. Stone said if he does not win his match, he's done with him. I have to say, this was the biggest, the toughest match that Ilya Dragunov has been, but it was Torpedo Moscow that took him out. However, post-match, Dijak shows up, tell him so you like to be a pain. So basically, looks like Dijak wants to give him some more pain. We'll see what happens. Our next match, we have Joe Coffey along with Gallus taking on Tank Ledger. I think Tank Ledger really impressed us a lot. I mean, we've seen him on NXT Level Up a lot, but he pulled up. He actually did pretty good in the match, but however, he got lariated by Joe Coffey. But in the post-match, we saw the arrival of the Creed brothers and Dyad. So this is getting out of hand to find out who is going to be the next people to challenge Gallus for the tag titles. Well, meanwhile, in the back, we see Stax and Tony D'Angelo talking, and they run into Roxanne, telling her, are you okay, and all this. But Zoe Starks, once again, decides to get in the way of Roxanne and all that. But Roxanne said that she'll deal with her next week. But unfortunately, Stax and Tony D'Angelo were viciously attacked by Britelli, who did not take kindly after they were beaten up by them. So we're going to see a big, interesting feud between them. Now, our main event is the NXT title #1 contendership fatal 4-way. Dragon Lee versus Duke Hudson versus JD McDonough versus Grayson Waller. I thought this match was good, but as always, someone has to find a way to take the opportunity, and that person was Grayson Waller. As soon as Dragon Lee applied a powerbomb on Duke Hudson, Lee applied the Waller effect onto Dragon Lee, but he pinned Duke. 1, 2, 3 is over. But he claims that this title will definitely go with him, but I know Mello, he's not going to let that happen. He's confident enough that he's going to win, but Grayson Waller is full of himself, saying it will walk away, because like I said, I was waiting for the punchline saying, didn't you lose to Braun Breaker twice? I'm still upset that they didn't put that up. I would like to see the punchline. So I think that's pretty much it right now with NXT. So let's go over some news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news updates. Let's start with the GCW stuff. We announced for a match taking place on the 1640 I Can't Feel My Face. We got Los Macizos taking on the Reject, consistent of John Wayne Murdoch and Brent something. I forgot. Reed Bentley, I think that's his name. But yeah, for the Scene of a Crime show taking place on the 22nd of April, the JCW title, Jordan Oliver defends against Shigehiro Iri. That's going to be a good match. Fight Night announced for on the 11th of May. Matt Cardona is going to be there, and of course, he's going to be celebrating his birthday. I don't think the GCW fan base are going to like that, but someone is going to spill the party, and I'm hoping is Nick Gage. Now for the I Can't Save You on May 22nd, uh, Gringo Loco will be facing off against Ninja Mac. Then it's announced for the Tournament of Survival on the 3rd of June. Um, the King of Freedom's champion, Tomoyo Hirata, will be making his appearance. And of course, finally, we have the Cage of Survival on the 4th of June. And Hijo Vikingo will be making his presence there. Wrestling Revolver announced for the Mayhem for All event later on in May. John Moxley will be there, but very unusual. He's going to be in a match against Jake Chris. Now, I know he's not allowed to wrestle there, but I'm sure he must have worked out a deal with with Tony Khan. I'm sure that's going to happen. But we are going to see another match for that. Alex Shelley, who is the current Prestige Wrestling champion and the Wrestling Revolver Remix champion, takes on the winner of the 16 carat uh, tournament in WXW and also the XW champion, Shigehiro Iri. I'm looking forward to that. Now, this one I'm not sure if I can confirm it or not. If anybody knows it, please leave it a comment just to show. They're announcing that Billie Starkz was confirmed by Tony Schiavone that she signed with AEW. Now, I don't know if that's 100% true. We know there's been a lot of talk about her appearances in AEW and all that, but she is a prodigy, not nonetheless. But she did some impressive matches during her AEW Dark, not to mention with Jade Cargill. I thought that's going to be interesting. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. But this was coming from Tony Schiavone. I haven't heard anything from Tony Khan or the AEW social media. So if anybody have any information on that, please leave a comment for that. Now, Fightful Select has two interesting reports here. Now, the first one, Brian Cage, as you guys know, we were told that he was going to become a free agent soon. But, however, it was announced that he resigned with AEW. Very interesting. We know the WWE has interest in him, but nonetheless. Now, this one was a very interesting one coming from Marina Shafir. She said that she would like to help the AEW women's division. I have to say, I like to see that, because we know that there's been a lot of criticism with the women's division in AEW time and time again. So I would like to see her do that. I mean, it would be great. An interesting. This was coming from various people regarding about Hijo Del Vikingo. Conan and Rey Mysterio had a heart-to-heart talk with Hijo Vikingo, telling him that he needs to tone down on his in-ring style. Now, the reason behind that is because they're worried about, I mean, he is like he's 24, 25 years old, and he does these insane moves. But I think many of us can say one wrong move could actually end things. So I understand what they're saying. And I don't know how Hijo Vikingo would take that. He hasn't said anything. But it's a good advice. I mean, we've seen his matches. They're insane. But yeah. Now, speaking of Hijo de Vikingo, it's already been announced that he will be in the upcoming DEFY event, Heathens, on the 24th of June, where he faces Commander. Now, as you know, we know about the upcoming Wembley show taking place in August for All In. Jericho put out this interesting tweet about how critics already are criticizing and claiming that All In Wembley Stadium will fail. Jericho begs to differ. He's like saying, now you're making assumptions over a show that you think is not going to sell out. I have to agree with that. Many people thought the same thing with the first All In show back in 2018. Same thing with the first AEW show. And now critics are saying this as well. I mean, sometimes they need to shut the hell up. But Jericho does a fantastic point. You guys are criticizing something that hasn't happened yet. Until then, we'll find out. New Japan Pro Wrestling has announced There's going to be some wrestlers, young lions, who will be on excursions. And here who they are: Kosef Fujita, Rei Oiwa, Yuto Nakajima, Oscar Lobe, and Oleg. Now, those who don't understand the New Japan system, every young lion who are been trained in the dojo, they send them off to excursions. If you guys remember, what's his name? Yuta Tsuji actually went to, and of course Shota Umino. They both went on excursion to Rev Pro. Now, I know that Shota Umino was in Rev Pro for almost what 2 3 years, and he did pretty well. Look at him; he came back as a star. People like him. Yota Tsuji, he's still on excursion. Currently, he is in Mexico, training in CMML. Don't know when he's going to come back. Ren Narita went to the LA dojo on excursion, and now he's back. And not to mention, he is making headways on that. So it's still unclear where these young lions are going to end up. Will they be heading to Mexico or the UK? Who knows? Or possibly the LA dojo training under Shibata. So that is something I'm sure. Now, our final update here. As you know, May 23rd is the third annual Hana Kimora Memorial Show. We were told that there's going to be 3 wrestlers from Stardom that will participate. It's already been announced. It's going to be Sudi and Rina. And now the third participant is none other than Boy. That's right. Natsupoi will be making her second appearance in the Hana Kimura Memorial Show. Now, some of you may probably ask me, does Hana know Natsupoi? I don't know. I'm sure they might have come across each other at times, but we'll just see what happens. I'm looking forward to see who else is going to participate in Hana Kimura Memorial Show, but we'll just wait and see. But for now, let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Like I said, I'm going to catch up with the GCW collective shows as much as possible. Haven't decided what I'm going to do yet, but we cannot deny AEW Dynamite, which is coming up soon. I'm looking forward to see what's going to take place. And I think that's pretty much it. But for now, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang.